And to go.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Use Your Power podcast. I'm your host, Craig Davis. For an audio description, I am a white man in my 40s with blondish grayish hair and short beard with a yellow sweater with a green shirt underneath. This podcast, like all of them that will be in the future, is brought to you by Rev Up Texas. Rev Up Texas is a nonpartisan grassroots coalition of people with disabilities of all ages, advocates, and other allies promoting our community to become more involved and influential in the electoral politics of people with disabilities. Our hope is that this bi-monthly podcast will serve as a beacon and resource for our listeners to motivate you by giving you the information and tools needed to share your story and bring about real changes in the disability community. This episode, like many others over the next several months, will be following what is happening in the current Texas legislature. Today we are live streaming. That's right, we're live. I could be replaced by the end of this episode. And as we are live streaming, we'll be focusing on self-advocacy and telling your story. Our first guest knows a lot about telling her story and being a fierce self-advocate. Nancy Crowther retired after 25 years as an accessible transportation specialist for Capital Metro here in Austin, Texas. She's also a community organizer with Adaptive Texas and the vice president of the South Austin chapter of the AARP. She is compassionate about advocacy and the rights of people with disabilities. We had a chance to talk with her before the winter storms of last week. As an audio description, she is a white woman with silver white hair and uses a motorized wheelchair.
Let me tell you about my journey to try to put in my vote for 2020.
Hi, I'm Nancy Kroger. I've been quarantining since March 13th. I have to go drop off my ballot. I've got to go all the way up to 5501 Airport Boulevard, which requires taking the bus.
I had been in my house since the pandemic started. I was not looking forward to going out in public. But I had to do what I had to do. And getting my vote in mattered. My journey to place my ballot into that box and get back home took about 3 hours. And public transit takes a while. I have a compromised health condition. Voting in person would have exposed me, Lord knows, it would have exposed me to danger I did not want to have to deal with. So doing it by absentee voting, I thought would be the answer. I had to go to a drop-off box 9 miles away from my house, and I had to return, all exposing myself to whatever was out there. Why did I do that? Because I was mad. I wanted to make sure my vote counted. I wanted to make sure my vote actually got into one of 1 boxes in Travis County. There were going to be 4, but there was only 1.
I'm getting out of there, oncoming traffic. Yeah. I came on the bus. Oh dear. To get here, and I sat in line with cars. There's no signage that says the walk-up's over here. So one of the employees said, "Are you getting your tags?" And I went, "No, I'm trying to turn in my ballot." And it's yours? All right. And then you go right here. Okay. For posterity. Woohoo! Ready? Two. Yay!
And my vote counts, and I wanted to make sure that I could make it count, and I risked my life for that. I would do it again and again and again. As long as I got my vote in, I wanted to make sure that vote counts.
Craig, you're good?
Thank you, Nancy. Up next, we have two special guests that are going to give you their tips and tricks on how to tell your story. First, we have Tessa Goodnight. She's a local Austin filmmaker and a producer here on the show. And we also have Julie Espinoza, who is the Assistant Director of the Reach of Plano Resource Center on Independent Living and is a 30-year advocate in the disability community. So I'll turn it over to them.
Hi, everyone.
So I'm Julie Espinoza. As Craig said, I'm the Assistant Director at Reach of Plano. My pronouns are he and she. No, I'm sorry, she and her. I'm a Caucasian woman with short brown hair that's got a lot of gray at the top. I think it looks good. That's what I tell myself as it keeps getting grayer. And I'm wearing a green turtleneck with a blue face mask. And I just want to say that telling your story is extremely valuable. Never underestimate the power of your story. We have so many things happening in the community that the legislators need to hear from us. Don't rely on others to tell your story for you, because nobody really knows what you're going through but you. So what I want to say about telling your story is value it by being short for your time and for theirs, being specific, know your story, know the points you want to make, and know the solution that you are asking for. You don't want to leave the listener with questions about what to do about it. You want them to know exactly what would have helped you in that story, so that that story doesn't have to continue on for somebody else. So those are my tips: is value yourself, use your power, and telling your story is the most powerful thing you can do, because our legislators, they want to help. They want to hear from you. They want to serve. And they can't be successful at their job if you don't take the value of your own story seriously. So those are my tips for telling your story. Use your power.
That's great. And hi, everyone. I'm here, like I said, or like Craig said, I'm one of the producers here at the show. So
you're on mute.
Unmute. So I'm one of the producers here at the show, so I'm here to help you be your own producer when you're making a video to share your story, like the really great story we just saw from Nancy. And I'm also a social media manager here at RevUp, so any questions that you might have about social media, go ahead and put them in the comments now. I'm being reminded that I need to give my description of myself. I'm a 25-year-old white woman. I have really long brown hair. I'm in my bedroom/office, and I use her, hers, and they pronouns. So we're gonna get right into it and open up a Q&A, which is part of the awesome live premiere. So if you have any questions, go ahead and write them down in the Facebook Live comments, and we have somebody relaying them to us on Zoom. We did have one question come in, and it was, how long should my video be? So if you're taking a video, how long should it be? My answer for that would be to try and keep it as short and sweet as possible, because especially if you're going to post it on social media, people do tend to tune out. So make sure that you're keeping all the meat and potatoes of your story in a nice little basket. I don't know what that analogy was. Do you have anything to add, Julie?
I would say I've heard 2 to 3 minutes, and I believe that not only is their time valuable, but all the other people that they could be listening to with their stories, they're all valuable. So you should be able to practice, know your points, ask for your solution within 2 to 3 minutes to be effective. Just be prepared for that, because that way also your story can be shared over and over and over, because it's not so long that it doesn't fit if it's needed again. So I would say 2 to 3 minutes is a good kind of rule of thumb.
Yeah, and another thing that I would add is that when you're telling your story, you need to make it, like any good story, you need to make sure it has a beginning and a middle and an end. So before you actually sit down and press record to record yourself telling your story, you need to maybe write down your ideas, write down what you think a good beginning, middle, and end would be. And that leads really nicely into the question that we just got, which is, how can I tell a story like Nancy? Nancy obviously had something she really wanted to share. She was about to go out into the world and cast her ballot, and she thought that this was such an exciting thing that she should film it. Do you have any other response, Julie?
I would say Nancy tells a lot of stories, and that helps. A good storyteller knows the reaction that people will give. So practice. Just practice. Get comfortable telling your story. Get comfortable getting feedback from people that you're giving your story to. We're all good storytellers. If we think we aren't, it's because maybe we are telling our stories to the wrong audience. Find some people that are good listeners and just, like I said, value your story, value it. And practice does make perfect.
Yes, practice is good. And it also looked like Nancy enlisted a friend or maybe a family member to hold the camera for her and run around being her own personal little camera woman. So you can do that. Definitely get friends involved, get family members involved to help you out and be your production crew. We have another question, and that is, besides the Texas legislature, what are other ways I can use my story to make real changes? What a great question. Well, we were talking about social media. I'm always going to be talking about social media. You can target anybody via social media, any politician that you want to reach. I mean, all the way up to the President of the United States. You can tag Joe Biden. You can send things directly to Joe Biden if you really wanted to. So basically, any branch of government, any leadership, you can target with your story through social media.
And also, we're always hearing politics at the local level. You can start with your neighborhood group, your local elections, your city council, and then work your way up. Never think that it has to be so big and so powerful, the audience that you're speaking to, that you don't start with your own next door neighbors. I mean, that's how community evolves and changes. So just start. Just start. Make it a goal. Start telling your story. Start practicing. Start using every audience you can to spread your message. That's how change happens.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question coming in. What tools are out there to help me or let me record my story? Your phone. You got my phone right here. Your phone is a huge asset for you. You can film on most phones nowadays. I'm pretty sure all phones. You can also use like a tablet. You can use your computer. Most computers have web cameras in them nowadays. Or you could just use a regular camera, digital camera, anything you have. At this point, I don't think anybody's going to judge you for using a low quality camera or anything like that, because what really matters is that you're sharing your story and we're hearing from you. So nobody's expecting like a Hollywood movie.
And you can also use Facebook. I mean, there's power in Facebook. Everybody started live streaming because they realized, hey, I can get an audience filming on location. You don't really need to spend the same amount of money that you would have 10 years ago. It's really at your fingertips. The ability to do it, the ability to edit it, the technical skill is very consumer friendly. Just start using it and build your confidence.
Yeah, and Twitter even, that'll get a bunch of people started talking. If they're interested in what you're saying, you can start a whole Twitter thread of everybody giving their opinions and sharing their stories. So what you say becomes a platform for others. One of the questions is like, how do I know who to target in the Texas legislature? And so you can do a quick Google search for Texas legislature online, and that will bring you to a list, and you can actually find who your representatives are in Texas, and then just go on to whatever social media you want to use, and type in that person's name, and you're going to be able to see if that's the real person, because usually any kind of leadership is going to have a verified, which is that little blue check mark beside their name on social media. So you're going to know that that's really them, and go ahead and send your story directly. Let's see, more questions from private messages. Are we going to be giving real invited testimony? Julie?
You know, you may be called upon. You may be invited to share your story and give testimony. You might not be. Don't wait. You don't have to have an invitation to tell your story. Just, like I said, make it a habit to start doing that. But if you practice what we talked about keeping it short, keeping it specific, and having a solution, that story can be shared, and you are always ready and prepared for if you are invited. I mean, I think if you start sharing your story, which is perfectly fine, like I said, they're there to listen to you, they're there to serve you. If you start sharing it, you never know. They may call on you with an invitation because they've already heard your story, and they know it's a good one. It supports what they're thinking should happen. So it's great, and it's an honor to be invited, but don't wait. I know that there's a quote by Justin Dart that says, you don't need a title or an invitation. You can be, oh my gosh, I should have looked at the quote. You can be the power of one. Basically, one person can do something if they just do it. So.
Yep, and as for Rev Up, we are always looking for people to send in their videos to share with us the content that they're creating. So please don't be afraid to send it our way. And in the future, if Rev Up gets called for testimony, we can ask your permission to use some of those videos or use some of those quotes from you for the actual testimony. So share, share, share. We have a couple other questions. How do I caption my videos to make sure they're accessible for everyone? Well, there are a few different social media platforms that do auto-generated captions. So, for instance, Facebook Live does auto-generated captions. So after this video has been recorded from our live, it'll be posted on the Rev Up Texas Facebook page, and Facebook will actually generate captions, so you'll be able to see them. And YouTube does the same thing. So when you upload your video to YouTube after it's done verifying and processing the video, when somebody watches it, they can watch it with auto-generated captions. So auto-generated is a great option. I know that on YouTube you can also, there's like a plane flying over right now. It's the loudest plane I've ever heard in my life. Sorry, everyone. You can also enter in your own captions on YouTube. You can always write things down, and if you take a Google, you will also be able to find that there are lots of organizations or companies that do captioning, and for just like a nominal fee, you can get captions created for almost any video. Another question is
transcript at the bottom of the page. There's a lot of talking. People just add that transcript so that people can see the video and they can scroll down and read it too. Yeah. Sorry, I had to interject that.
No, that's absolutely true. And make sure that for like any images that you post, you're also remembering to add that alternative text or that text description in the body. The next question was, does RevUp have a video that explains how to make a video? And the answer is yes, we do. I actually made a couple of different tutorials that are on the RevUp Texas YouTube and on the Vimeo, which you can access through the website, which is revuptexas.org. So go there and you'll find tutorials on how to edit the footage on your phone, how to take the footage on your phone, where to upload it. So all those questions are answered. We had a question that was like, what if I don't have a tripod and I can't hold my phone to record? Julie?
I want to say that I thought about that because I've seen a lot of people that maybe they use a wheelchair. They can hold the phone, but they can't do the wheelchair and hold the phone. So they're limited. They can't move if they want to film something. So what I would suggest is that you use your imagination. Go into your kitchen. Look for something that fits the device you're using. For an example, I've got here a pretty slim little phone. And here I've got my favorite coffee cup. And all I have to do is put my phone down inside my coffee cup. And it holds it, and I can move it around. I can move it this way or that way. I can stuff a sock. I put some paper towels in here earlier to make it, lean the direction I need it to lean. So if you're using a tablet, go into your kitchen and look at some pots and pans. The only thing I recommend is don't try a mason jar. You don't want to drop your phone down in there and not be able to get it out. So just use your imagination. A cookbook holder. Just slide it into a cookbook holder. There's so many things that can hold your cell phone. And I know one friend, she has a cup holder on her wheelchair. She puts it in. She's able to, go all around and drive just fine while it keeps recording. So you don't have to have a tripod because devices are getting so many multiple sizes and shapes. And a lot of people have, devices to hold it so that they can drive in their car while they're filming. I think that's a little dangerous, but they do it. So just use your imagination and think, what else could hold this in place?
Yeah, get creative. You're definitely right. Just be creative with what you have. I know that in one of the tutorials I made, one of my suggestions was to use heavy stacks of books. And I think actually in that video I used printer paper too, and you can just stack 2 sets up and then put the phone between it and clamp it together. And that makes a quick tripod. If you don't have one, just put it up on a table. We got another question. Do the legislators really listen to us? I'm not an expert. I think
they do. They do. They want to hear from you. I've had so many legislators call me or thank me in email because it's an issue they hadn't heard of before, and they were happy to find somebody in their district that had a story to tell. So absolutely, there are people out there, they are wanting to do a good job, and they can't if they don't hear from you. So they do listen, and they are very appreciative of your time in telling that story.
Right, and going back to social media, once again, the great thing about social media is that you can go viral. And I'm not saying maybe necessarily your video is going to go viral, but maybe the comment section of your video is going to blow up. And then all of a sudden, this person who you're sending your story to, who you're trying to hold accountable, they're not just being held accountable by you, they're being held accountable by all those people in the comment section who are pointing and saying, we want to know, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this story that this person is telling? What are you going to do in the future? So I think that they will listen if you just keep on trying. like Julie was saying, just keep going, make it a habit, get used to sharing your story. I think we're getting close to time now, and we don't have any new questions, so maybe it's time to send it back to Craig. Do you have anything that you want to say, Julie, in closing?
Yes, rev up, use your power. That's what this is all about. I hope that you guys right now have stories running through your mind that you really want to start sharing as soon as this is over. Get out your cell phone, practice, you can do it. Don't be afraid to use your power. We've got to rev up.
And I'm just getting sent the link for the specific webpage where you can find your legislator, and that link is wrm.capital.texas.gov. And we can put that in the description of this video when it gets posted later today. All right, Craig, back to you.
Great, thank you so much. That was really great information from both of you. So this episode has been live, but in the future they will mostly be pre-recorded, and they will be dropping every other Friday. So the next one will be on March 12th, and you can find them on our YouTube channel, and you can also find them on revuptexas.org. In fact, I believe we have a sneak peek of what's coming up on March 12th, which will be about giving testimony.
Yeah, we're going to that.
Let's take a look at that.
One of the things that I learned being an advocate and speaking before the legislature
audio problem with
is that you're only given 3 minutes. And so you want to use that time.
Well, then just tune in on March 12th and you'll see what we're talking about. It'll be giving testimony, actual testimony to the Texas legislature. So I would like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank the guests, Nancy Crowther, Julie Espinoza, Tessa Goodnight. We'd like to hear from you. Please send any suggestions, topics, guests, co-hosts, Trinity Media Social to revuptexas@gmail.com or revuptx@gmail.com. Till next time, tell your story and use your power.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.